Hello, I'm here with Dr. Michael Dim. Say hello, Michael.
Hi, nice to be here.
And I'm just going to be asking some questions. Everybody put on Facebook. We asked you to give some questions, Dr. Michael. We're going to answer as many as we can, probably put about 10 minutes in here. So any of the questions that didn't get answered, maybe on the next following one, we'll continue them and probably make every other month we'll do a couple of these here and there and answering your questions. So we'll start off question number one. The first one is Kathy Ferlano Ludenslager. Where do I find info on alternative tick and heartworm prevention?
Well, probably my first two go-tos for that would be my teacher's book, Dr. Pitcairn, called Dr. Pitcairn's Guide to Natural Health for Dogs and Cats by Richard Pitcairn. That's an excellent resource for my clients that I often refer, and he's got some wonderful suggestions for flea and tick control as well as heartworm prevention, other perspectives and other options. And then there's another colleague of mine, Dr. Will Falconer, who has a wonderful website, and he has a e-booklet called "Vital Dogs Don't Get Heartworms," and it's a wonderful, brief discussion of how to keep our animals healthy without strong chemicals and pesticides. And I find his information quite helpful. With that being said, we all have our own go-to products that we like. A lot of the ones for tick and flea control are more along the lines of essential oils. And, there are several really good products out there. I can rattle off a few here. There's one known as Flea Hex, which is a very, very good one developed by Dr. Peter DeBias. There's another one called Bug Off, which is a internal treatment that helps keep animals less tasty to fleas and ticks. Um, there's also Dr. Mercola has a nice product called Dog Flea and Tick Defense. These are all, again, very, very good products that can help, again, prevent and treat infestations. And I can't stress enough that the number one thing we try to do holistically is to improve the health of the animal and raise the vibration and the energy of the animal so that they're less susceptible to fleas and ticks. So, a lot of good resources out there, and certainly I encourage clients to explore them.
Good stuff. So number two, the second one we're going to hear is Gretchen Van Gelder Cassie. She says, my 7-year-old Calico almost always has gunky eyes. I use ophthalmologic or eye wash or tobrimazine. Sorry if I messed some of these words up, drops from vet, but they are only temporary help. Gunk again in 2 days. Cannot narrow down if she is allergic or that is the issue more than a year.
I find that animals that have these chronic discharges often are in a state of toxicity in their body, and their life force or their chi is just attempting to push out to the outside toxins that it's not getting rid of adequately at the liver or kidney level. And so I always try and approach these from that perspective. I often put these animals on a herbal liver cleanse or a detox to help, again, the liver do its job a little better so that it doesn't overwhelm the rest of the body. I treat these animals with homeopathy to address the symptom totality of the patient. And in other words, not just looking at gunky eyes, but other symptom tendencies the patient may have, and then prescribe homeopathic remedies to put the body back into balance. And then, just as an aside, there's also a nice little protocol I'll use with animals that have chronic eye discharges using the herbs eyebright and golden seal. And what I have clients do really quickly is they dissolve a quarter of a teaspoon of sea salt in a cup of water that they bring to a boil. They let it cool, and then you're making up your own sea salt solution, dilute saline solution. And then to that solution, I have them add 6 to 8 drops of golden seal and eyebright herbals to the mix. And then you can use that as a solution to put in the eyes, like a couple of drops a few times a day. Very soothing, very healing, and not suppressive. So that would be something that can be done kind of instead of the tobramycin drops.
So the next one, Golden Flemisade, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, but Golden Flemisade asks, are all the Corvette vacs being used now, have our mRNA in them?
Well, actually, none of them have mRNA in them. The vaccines are usually either recombinant DNA vaccines, in other words, made from recombined genetic material, often from other species. For example, a lot of the vaccines today are made with canary pox vector, which sounds awful, and in my opinion, it is. And again, using other species in tissue culture to propagate the vaccine, as we call them. And then the other vaccines are often what are called modified live vaccines. In other words, where there's weakened versions of the viruses in them. And those I get a little nervous about because they shed into the environment and can cause disease in other animals that aren't even being vaccinated. And animals are often immune suppressed by modified live vaccines within 10 to 14 days. So, I'm not a big fan of those either. Not many vaccines, I'm not. And then finally, the category is killed virus vaccines, which rabies is one of those. So no messenger RNA vaccines yet on the block.
So Kim Durbin Wolf asks, is there a natural way to get rid of large fatty tumors in dogs?
Well, again, it's usually looked upon as a state of toxicity in the patient. And fatty tumors often develop from toxicity built up in the body over time, as well as I find fatty tumors often come up as a reaction to chronic vaccination. And certainly there are a few homeopathic remedies that come to mind that might be applicable. One is known as thuja, which we often use from reactions to vaccines. A couple of others, there's one called phosphorus, that's a homeopathic remedy, calcarea carbonica. I found these sometimes helpful in bringing the body back into balance and hopefully shrinking up the fatty tumors over time. And I often will go to these, but individually, a chronic constitutional homeopath is best to prescribe on these patients. I will put them through, again, a liver cleanse or a liver detox to help that way. And the other aspect of it is you want to make sure you don't have the fatty tumors removed, because if you remove those tumors, the body will manifest that tumor tendency deeper in the body, often with malignant labels attached to them. So I would encourage clients not to have these fatty tumors removed, but to work with a holistic vet on bringing the body back into balance.
Very good. So the next one, Tosin Targets. They ask, my two fur babies have been battling Giardia for 2 months now. Vet recommended Safeguard, which didn't help. Then metronidazole that didn't do the trick. Is there something else besides drugs to get rid of this problem? We have been constantly washing their beds, keeping their potty areas cleaned up. Help.
Well, we want to start by strengthening the health of the gut. And that usually comes with important probiotics to populate the bowels with healthy bacteria and enzymes. That's very, very important. A couple of products here that I found helpful. One probiotic, which is really caught on by wildfire in recent months, is called Vis Biome. That's with a V, Vis Biome. And then there's another company that makes a product called Adored Beast. That's the name of the company, called Gut Soothe. And I found those probiotics very, very helpful in strengthening the health of the gut. There are also herbs that can be helpful against Giardia and that are non-toxic. There's the Oregon grapefruit, which is an herb found in many herbal formulas for fighting parasites such as Giardia. And there's a nice company I use that has a product called Giardex, which is from Sustenance Herbs, that I also like. And again, you can use those. And again, we want to keep in mind, again, detoxification, species-appropriate diets, and strengthening the health of that gut so that the Giardia go away.
Very good. You might have answered this in the other one on vaccines, but Meg Giddens Vernon asked, can you talk about vaccines? Do you have to get the rabies vaccine?
Just in a nutshell, refer clients to previous videos. I'm a minimalist when it comes to vaccines. I recommend only at most a few of them when they're younger, and not to combine them into many combinations, and never when they're not healthy. And after that, they really don't need vaccines every year or every 3 years like a lot of my colleagues do. Rabies vaccine, though, is required by law in all the states. So that's a hard one to get around. I find it one of the more damaging ones from a homeopathic perspective. And so it's often one that's best when it's given to try and work with a holistic vet on treating the reactions or preventing reactions to it with homeopathic remedies and detox protocols. But unfortunately, it is one that's required because rabies is still seen in wildlife. And so we have to be mindful of that with our animals. Certain states allow medical exemptions to rabies vaccine. So if an animal has chronic ill health, then that's often an option. And then the measurement of rabies titers, which are antibody levels to see if animals have adequate protection, is another option. But the vaccine is required by law.
Okay, I think we'll take about two more. Kim Walden asks, is vasectomy safer or more cost-effective for dogs, large breed dogs, or is neutering the best option? Why or why not?
Well, as I've said on previous videos as well, maintaining those sex hormones is critical for the health of the whole patient. Studies in recent years have shown that by preserving the sex hormones, we actually prevent many cancers from developing later on in life, including prostate cancer. But other cancers like lymphoma and bone cancer and a tumor known as hemangiosarcoma, which is a tumor of the blood vessels, all are prevented or are minimized, not totally prevented, but minimized in animals that maintain the sex hormones. We see less other hormonal issues like thyroid problems and less diabetes. And in my opinion, we see less anxiety and fear-based aggression in our animals when the sex hormones are maintained. So vasectomies certainly do that. And they also prevent the overpopulation problem. The reason for maintaining the sex hormones, there are a few reasons. One would be reducing intermale aggression in intact male dogs. The others would be, of course, preventing overpopulation. Prostate enlargement can occur in intact male dogs, but again, treatable with herbs and homeopathic remedies. And then testicular cancer is very, very rare, and it's not a malignancy that spreads to too many places. So, but all in all considering, I strongly recommend preserving the sex hormones.
Okay, and then we'll do this last one by Barbara Ford. What are natural ways to handle hyperthyroidism in a female 12-year-old cat?
Well, there are several options. First, we want to be preventative with hyperthyroidism, minimize vaccinations, which are a big component, feed them a species appropriate diet, which means low carb, fresh meat diets, because carbohydrates are really dangerous to cats when fed long term. And then there are herbal preparations that do wonderful for decreasing thyroid levels. There are herbs that contain herbal formulas that contain lemon balm and bugleweed and Rehmannia. These are herbs that come in formulas. There's a company called Pet Wellbeing that has a nice, herbal combination that has these herbs in them. Homeopathy can also be very, very helpful for decreasing thyroid levels. I found remedies like natrum mure and lycopodium and phosphorus, for those of you who know homeopathy, often helpful with reducing thyroid levels. And then interestingly, feeding cats, if cats will eat certain cooked vegetables, like those in the brassica group, like broccoli or kale or Brussels sprouts, there are certainly cats that will eat some of these things. These vegetables have a thyroid lowering effect as well, and sometimes can be added to the diet regimen.
All right, that's great stuff. I think we're going to top it off here. We got a good 12 minutes in. So we have your other questions, and we will be asking you more and having Dr. Dim answer these questions in the future. You want to do any closing thoughts and how to get in touch with you and any other information, Dr. Dim?
Yes, they can get a hold of me at my website, which is drdim.com. That's DOCTORDYM.com. That has all my contact information, my email address. And I do work with clients in person in the South Florida, West Palm Beach area, as well as take phone consultations nationwide.